Hi gorgeous ones, welcome back to Shelter in the Storm with A Course in Miracles lesson number 74. Okay, we're still doing chapter 5, Healing and Wholeness, and I will just continue reading from part 3, The Guide to Salvation, from where we left off yesterday. How are you guys traveling? Enjoying the storm? Delay is of the ego, because time is its concept. Both time and delay are meaningless in eternity. I have said before that the Holy Spirit is God's answer to the ego. Everything of which the Holy Spirit reminds you is in direct opposition to the ego's notions, because true and false perceptions are themselves opposed. The Holy Spirit has the task of undoing what the ego has made. He undoes it at the same level on which the ego operates, or the mind would be unable to understand the change. I have repeatedly emphasized that one level of the mind is not understandable to another. So it is with the ego and the Holy Spirit, with time and eternity. Eternity is an idea of God, so the Holy Spirit understands it perfectly. Time is a belief of the ego, so the lower mind, which is the ego's domain, accepts it without question. The only aspect of time that is eternal is now. The Holy Spirit is the mediator between the interpretations of the ego and the knowledge of the Spirit. His ability to deal with symbols enables him to work with the ego's beliefs in its own language. His ability to look beyond symbols into eternity enables him to understand the laws of God, for which he speaks. He can therefore perform the function of reinterpreting what the ego makes, not by destruction, but by understanding. Understanding is light, and light leads to knowledge. The Holy Spirit is in light, because he is in you who are light, but you yourself do not know this. It is therefore the task of the Holy Spirit to reinterpret you on behalf of God. You cannot understand yourself alone. This is because you have no meaning apart from your rightful place in the sonship, and the rightful place of the sonship is God. This is your life, your eternity, and yourself. It is of this that the Holy Spirit reminds you. It is this that the Holy Spirit sees. This vision frightens the ego because it is so calm. Peace is the ego's greatest enemy, because according to its interpretation of reality, war is the guarantee of its survival. The ego becomes strong in strife. If you believe there is strife, you will react viciously, because the idea of danger has entered your mind. The idea itself is an appeal to the ego. And the Holy Spirit is as vigilant as the ego to the call of danger, opposing it with his strength, just as the ego welcomes it. The Holy Spirit counters this welcome by welcoming peace. Eternity and peace are as closely related as are time and war. Okay, there is our text reading for this evening, for today. Oh, I'm not finished with the workbook. We will move to lesson number 74. Okay, there is no will but God's. Excuse me. The idea for today can be regarded as the central thought toward which all our exercises are directed. God is the only will. God's is the only will. When you have recognized this, you have recognized that your will is His. The belief that conflict is possible has gone. Peace has replaced the strange idea that you are torn by conflicting goals. As an expression of the will of God, you have no goal but His. There is great peace in today's idea, and the exercises for today are directed towards finding it. The idea itself is wholly true. Therefore, it cannot give rise to illusions. Without illusions, conflict is impossible. Let us try to recognize this today and experience the peace this recognition brings. Begin the longer practice periods by repeating these thoughts several times, slowly and with firm determination to understand what they mean and to hold them in mind. There is no will but God's. I cannot be in conflict. Then spend several minutes in adding some related thoughts, such as, I am at peace. Nothing can disturb me. My will is God's. My will and God's are one. God wills peace for His Son. During this introductory phase, be sure to deal quickly with any conflict thoughts that may cross your mind. Tell yourself immediately, there is no will but God's. These conflict thoughts are meaningless. If there is one conflict area that seems particularly difficult to resolve, single it out for special consideration. Think about it briefly but very specifically. Identify the particular person or persons and the situation or situations involved, and tell yourself, there is no will but God's. I share it with Him. My conflicts about da and da cannot be real. After you have cleared your mind in this way, close your eyes and try to experience the peace to which your reality entitles you. Sink into it and feel it closing around you. There may be some temptation to mistake these attempts for withdrawal, but the difference is easily detected. If you are succeeding, you will feel a deep sense of joy and an increased alertness, rather than a feeling of drowsiness and enervation. Joy characterizes peace. By this experience will you recognize that you have reached it. If you feel yourself slipping off into withdrawal, quickly repeat the idea for today and try again. Do this as often as necessary. There is definite gain in refusing to allow retreat into withdrawal, even if you do not experience the peace you seek. In the shorter periods, which should be undertaken at regular and predetermined intervals today, say to yourself, There is no will but God's. I seek His peace today. Then try to find what you are seeking. A minute or two every half an hour, with eyes closed if possible, would be well spent on this today. And there we have lesson 74. There is no will but God's. Now for A Year of Forgiveness, Jesus' commentary for lesson 74. Let me see if I can hold the picture where you can see it. There is no will but God's. Okay. You are blessed beings, indeed. I am that one you know as Jesus. This lesson brings an important point to your attention. Many of your upsets come from arguing with what happens in front of you. Whether it's a war, a job loss, a partner doing something you don't like, or children misbehaving. A constant battle goes on between you and things already in play. So we must go to the fundamental issue here of what is in charge of your world. Well, there are many forces in charge of your world, most of them misaligned forces lacking light and love. No kidding. So they play out their drama, but they are allowed to. You must remember, this is a place of free will. You have tremendous creative power and free will. That means God allows what you see happening. In fact, God is not involved in most of what happens on your plane because you have free will. Only when you use that free will to step above the battleground and align with love does the connection and communion felt as love, peace, and spiritual connection happen. You begin to actually feel there might even be a God. In the battleground, it surely looks like there is no God. This idea that your will and God's will are in alignment is a very important one, because when you surrender to that which interests you, brings you joy, prompts you toward health and love and happiness, then you align with God's will for you, which is happiness and joy, fulfillment, and experiencing that which you wanted to learn about in this incarnation. That is all guided by your interior world, your interior guidance system. The idea of withdrawal now is a very interesting one, because that is what most of you have done. You withdraw into the ego's illusory world and do not connect with your true guidance. Darkness and light seem to battle for supremacy. There, the dualistic laws of the lower frequencies apply and appear as a battle between God and another force. As you go down in frequency, the other force seems to pick up more power. This is where the idea of evil or the devil has arisen. But you have merely stepped further and further away from the realm in which God resides, which is love. That is why it is important for you to remember that love, health, and creativity is your will, because they are God's will for you. You do not feel conflict when in alignment. You do not feel conflict when in alignment. You feel conflict when you try to choose between God's will for you and the ego's designs. Remember that. If there is conflict in the mind, you must look at what you are trying to choose between and ask yourself which one is God's will for you. Again, the clarification process of doing A Course in Miracles is very important because the ego will, indeed, try to deceive you into believing that its will is God's will for you. We do not want to belabor this point here, but whenever you have a choice, do not rush it. Go inside for 2 or 3 days in calm contemplation and ask yourself, which one of these 2 roads leads me toward love, health, and happiness? And which one leads me further into separation and closer to fear? I am that one you know as Jesus, and we will speak to you tomorrow. Namaste, beautiful ones.